Hi, I am Michael Bean, and this is the myfreeactingclass.com lesson for Monday, July the 20th. You can find more about these at myfreeactingclass.com, and you can follow that to find more about me and more about Kirsten Clarkson. So heads up that I found out from Kirsten that she's needing to adjust her schedule with my free acting class. Hopefully, I'll see if I can get a clear announcement from her on Tuesday, and we'll include that on Facebook. And then if she's able to teach on Wednesday, then she will just tell you herself. So she's schedule adjusting. These lessons will continue. It just might not be every weekday for the next little while we figure out what comes next. But it's summer, and so maybe that'll just encourage you to get out and see more sunshine and watch more of Kirsten's videos on her website or something like that. So today we're going to talk camera technique. So a reminder that if you do not want me to point out your camera and say, hey, here's what we're seeing, here's what this looks like, here's what's important, then all you have to do is turn your video off. Like, no, don't pick on me. Super straightforward. The consent first. And so if you do have your video on, then I might talk about it just as I'm doing a quick overview. And then today we're going to work on two short scripts. One from Supernatural. Hope Caden shows up because I told them that we'd do this one where you get to be strangled by a mummy, and then another one from Charmed, where you have crossbows, and you get to be knocked down by invisible witches. So what I like to do on Monday is go over some of the things that involve telling the story using the camera and using the frame in ways that initially seem very difficult to do. So you look at it on paper and you're like, oh my gosh, how do I do this? So that's what we're going to cover today. To start with, I'll just give you the very quick rundown of frame. Frame is what the camera is seeing. The standard frame that you want to be playing with for an audition is what you see from me here or from Elaine there. Although Elaine, you want to tip down just a little bit because right now we're seeing neck. And what we want is top of the head. Right, so no space above your head. Yeah, exactly. It's just head and shoulders down to just about the armpits. Right? So you're just a smidge too close, but you've got great eyeline. Same thing from seeing in Christina's video. This is what's called a medium close-up. So just the top of the head down to below the armpits, a little bit on each side. If you want to a little bit of extra, then what you can do is you can give yourself a little bit of what's called nose room. So if I'm talking to Samantha, who for me is on that side, then I can just scooch this way just a little bit, be just a little bit off center. You'll see this on TV quite a lot. One of the dangers when you're particularly doing Zoom or recorded auditions, so I'm giving myself nose room in the direction that I am talking. One of the dangers of doing a recorded audition is if you put, right now, if I'm looking right at the spot, sort of this right between Elaine and Christina on my monitor, which is directly underneath my camera, it looks or can look like I'm looking into my camera. So one of the dangers, you don't want to put your eye line, the invisible line between your eyes and what you're looking at, directly in the middle, or often you'll spike the lens. And very unusual in television for us to, we're watching you and it feels totally real, and then you're just for a second, and even the slightest glimpse directly at the camera will pick up, right? So talking and talking and talking and talking, there's just that microsecond flick back and forth, and we'll still see it. And it will matter, and it will be important, and the audience will be like, what's that mean about the story? Although if it looks like you're looking directly at the camera, they'll be like, oh, this person looks nervous, or they don't know what to do technically, it becomes problematic. So that's frame, that's eye line. Now, my suggestion is that you have two eye lines, even if there are more people than two, that you have two eye lines, one on one side of the camera, and that's if you've got a reader, that's where you put your reader, and the other just to the other side of the camera. So I'm using a laptop computer, so what I will typically do is I will, rather than make it full screen, I'll make the window sort of regular size, so I can physically drag the window so that the person, so that my eye line is where I want it to be, right? So that I'm looking at the person there in the right spot in exactly the top corner of my screen. And if I put that person at the bottom corner of my screen, you'll see that it's not nearly as flattering. It's not a big deal, but it's see how it looks like I'm talking to midgets and you're not getting nearly as much highlight? It's weird, right? And so even if it's in the middle of the screen, sometimes it'll look like I'm looking down at somebody and looking at somebody very short. So it's very important that your eye line be up as close to the camera's height as possible. And then a second eye line is just on the other corner. Okay, so again, because I'm using a laptop computer, I've got like a little teeny computer logo in the top left corner. So basically right now I'm using Samantha, to look at for we're acting. She's the mummy who's strangling me. Oh no, Samantha, don't strangle me. And then I'm look over there at the other person. Right, so those are the two eye lines. Frame, eye line. The obviously, you're going to sort of roughly give yourself marks. And just in an audition or on set, they'll actually make a little tape mark and say, okay, you need to stop within a couple of inches of this, or as close to this as humanly possible without looking at it. It takes a little bit of practice, but it's not incredibly difficult. When you're at home, it's a good idea to know your own camera setup and go, oh, right, okay, here's where I have to be for my media close-up, so I don't have to think about it very much. Easy. You want a non-distracting background. So again, we've got Deborah's. Got a great example of that. Like Elaine, she has a sheet or a curtain stretched up behind her. The Christina's got a blank wall behind her. It's totally fine. It doesn't have to be a blue wall. The reason that I use bright blue at the studio is that typically bright blue or bright green are used because they are, at least this is how it was explained to me, so if somebody has more technical expertise, you jump right in. But it was explained to me that those two colors don't show up in human skin tone. So because there's no bright blue in my skin, the bright blue doesn't do anything weird to my skin. Whereas if we look at Joseph's, who's against a bright red background, we'll see that it just makes him look more red. Which like for him isn't that big a deal because he's not as like pasty pale as I am. But if I was against that background, God, it would be super unflattering for me. Joseph, it's fine. And you can see neutral or undistracting background. It actually doesn't matter that he's got light switches behind him because we're going to glance at them and be like, okay, it's light switches. Yeah, no big deal. What we don't want is people looking at the background, instead of looking at your face. Which is why Samantha's setup, for instance, has just got a bunch of interesting stuff in the background. It's like, oh, look at that cool like dollhouse thing in the background. If we're looking at that instead of her face. And another great reason to look at Samantha is because she's what's called backlit. So the sun is shining in our eyes instead of reflecting in hers. And so Samantha, what you would want to do is you would want to try to set this up so that the device you're using was in front of the window, so that the big light from the window was reflected in your eyes instead of shining into our eyes. Does that make sense? You'd also want to make sure trying to elevate your camera so that it was eye level. Right. So again, it looks like Samantha is looming over top of us because she's above her camera and looking down. And it's a very strange thing to do, right? And we don't think about it. And I'm sure it doesn't matter if you're taking a Zoom class. If you're doing a taped audition, it's going to matter. This keeps coming up from both me and Kirsten that producers are going to watch the first 20 seconds of a video. And so that's why these technical things matter. Because if you show that you have cared enough to just do the basic setup, to have a clean technical setup, so they're just watching the acting and not assessing your technical skills, then you look professional. And that's been important for years, but I think it is more important now than it has ever been. Is to just make it easy for them to focus on you and your acting instead of going, oh wow, what an interesting background, or like, look at that cool chair they're sitting in, or like, hey, well, I wonder if they play all those musical instruments that are on their shelves, or like whatever it is. Doesn't have to be fancy, you're just cleaning it out the way. Now, let's get to the fun stuff. There's a sort of a trio of basic questions that I use when, speaking of questions, there's a story questions sheet that I use on Tuesdays, and looks like I disabled it for this. Okay, maybe I'll put it into Dropbox. So tomorrow I'll make sure you have a copy of the story sheet. It looks like I disabled file sharing because I was concerned about like Zoom spammers being able to do things. And so nobody can send files, including me, inside these windows. tomorrow I'll put it in my Dropbox and I'll just send you all. So there's 3 basic questions. Oh, Caden, you are here. Yeah. See, told you you get to get strangled by a zombie. Caden's been one of my most enthusiastic participants, and I didn't have something fun for him to do last week. So those questions are, when you read the script, first is do it exactly the way it's written. Just try it exactly the way it's written, and try it for camera, because often you'll find that it feels strange or feels weird or unfamiliar, but doesn't look bad. And if you try it and it looks bad, you're like, I don't know. But like, I highly recommend taping that just with your phone, like prop it on a stack of books. Doesn't have to. If it's for you, it doesn't. You don't have to do these background things, but just so you know with the frame. And then you try keeping it all outside of the frame, right? So and then if that still is not working for you, then you can alter it to be something that is similar, that tells the story in a similar way. So one of the classic examples is a kiss or a hug, right? Like sometimes it's written into the scene, that and especially if the other character references it, right? That there's like a kiss or a hug, and it's really important for the arc of the scene. But you don't. But you try it, and you're like, oh, that feels dumb. Okay, so I did exactly what it said. No, I guess that would be exactly what it said, and then keeping it outside the frame would be like, I'm hugging myself. Still feels weird. Okay, and then I'm gonna switch it for something else. I'm gonna go, okay, I'm gonna reach forward and grab their hand, which is actually just me like reaching forward and grabbing the table. Or I'm gonna go, right? But I'm gonna physicalize this softening moment of like, man, love and connection, in a way that tells the story. So that's an option. Now, let's look at these 2 fun sci-fi series, one of which was shooting in Vancouver for a very long time and is now done, and the other of which is shooting right now. So the first one is Supernatural. I guess we should probably choose somebody to be our security guard first. Hey Sarah, you want to be the security guard for me?
Sure.
Okay, great. So I'll read the stage direction and you read the security
Okay.
Earl sides. Earl stands looking at the long box.
Am I Earl?
You're Earl, yeah.
Okay. That's right. An Egyptian kind of deal. It was just sitting there on the loading dock.
Listens.
No, Dr. Iger, is it?
Sure.
There's no shipping invoice. No nothing.
Beat. Now, beat is a small pause or is a shift in the emotional tone of the scene or new thought, usually accompanied by a small pause. I have a fun story about the word beat that I'll tell you after we're done.
You think Ellen has any record of it in her files?
You will often see this. Earl continued on the script, and sometimes you'll see it when the script goes from one page to the next page, etc. He hears the OS, which is off screen, thud of the falling sarcophagus lid. He slowly turns. The sarcophagus lies open now, filled with a pooling cloud of vapor. Stunned, the guard lowers the phone. Earl, are you there? Earl is frozen with terror. Mummy steps from the coffin, arms outstretched. A low, airy moan issues from its liplessness.
Holy mother of crap!
Earl fumbles out his revolver and fires. He fires again.
No!
But it has Earl's throat in its bony grasp, strangling him. Earl's arms drop. His last bullet fires into the floor. Then he gives out a death cry. You want to try death cry for us, Sarah?
What?
And so the line is "Holy Mother of Crap," and then no, and if and Caden, you're welcome to just do the no if you want. So what I want is a couple of people to try being strangled by the mummy for us, right? So you're on the phone, then you look over, you see the mummy or the mist rising out of the sarcophagus, and the mummy rises. The mummy comes for you. This is crazy. You pull your gun, you fire. The mummy grabs you by the throat and strangles you to death, and you fall over and die. That's a lot of action for a very short audition script. But this is the fun stuff, because like, how do you pull that off? So if anybody who wants to try it, yeah, great. So you're just going to need to be on your feet, Caden. So we can start with you, and then I'd love some of the other folks to try it. Joseph, you haven't, played around with me for a while. Deborah, or Elaine, I don't think you've ever done a demo. Like, want to try being strangled by the mummy? It's like, it's just for the physicality of it, so you can't take yourself too seriously. You just have to be able to stand up. So okay, Caden's ready to go. But what about Deborah? Are you having trouble hearing me? Is my volume low, Deborah? Let me just check my audio settings. Oh, good. There we are. So that's much better, isn't it? Thank you. I'm so glad that Deborah was making like cuppy ears at me, because normally I have an external microphone. I don't have that with me today. Okay, so Caden, this has got some complicated eye lines. What about, so Deborah, are you going to help me out and do this next? Yeah, great. Caden, you're going to need to unmute yourself, okay? Okay, are you unmuted, Caden? Okay, can you unmute yourself? There you go, great. So, what we're imagining is that you're on, if you had a phone, you would be on the phone, but you're not going to pretend to hold an imaginary phone. Okay, you're just going to start looking over off camera. You're going to start looking over to the other side of the camera. No, you're going to stay where you are, your eye line. Your eyes are going to go to the other side of the camera, away from me. So you're looking at me right now? Right. Caden, are you listening to me? I want you to look at the other side of the camera, so the other corner of the screen. So not right at the camera, but now the opposite side. So off to your right, your other side. Caden, I'm going to ask you one more time, and then I'm just going to switch out to somebody else, because I don't know if you're having trouble hearing me, if you're just not understanding, but I want the eye line to the there you go, exactly, the opposite side. So when I say action, you're going to turn and look over here. Yeah, exactly. You're going to go, you're going to say, no!
Oh.
You're going to pull your gun, but you're not going to show it to the camera. Remember, it's off. You're going to fire your gun. You're not going to make sound effects. And then the mummy's going to grab you by the throat. You're going to use your own hand. You're going to choke yourself and die. Exactly. It'll probably be really fun, and you'll probably laugh. Let's do it again. So stand by, Caden. Remember, you're going to start looking at the other side of the screen. Stand by and action. You see the mummy? It's on the other side. Cut. So you're going to start by shifting your eye lines. Remember, 2 eye lines. So you're going to start on that corner of the screen. Stand by and action. You see the mummy? There he is on the other side.
No!
Pull your gun. Right. And so there's our version of like, you did exactly like it said. And I knew that Caden would enjoy that. Debbie, you get yourself standing up now? What about you, Sarah? Yeah, you want to do this one for real? No, she says, okay, well, you left your video on, so I can ask at least. And so now we try and cheat the action outside of the frame.
Okay, so I'm looking to the right.
So what you want is 2 eye lines. So you want to put me or wherever the mummy is just in one corner of the screen. You can drag the window so that you're looking at that person over there, and you want the other side.
No!
So remember, wait for stand by.
Okay.
Stands by means the camera is rolling. Action means go. So you just want to start the physicality on standby. Do you have a phone that's not going to that you've got close at hand? Right. Start on the phone. Remember, you're looking wherever the mummy is not right now. Now I'm going to walk you through it. We're going to rehearse it once before you do it all the way. Okay, so you're not going to do it all the way yet. We're just going to rehearse it. You're on the phone, stand by, and you look over. You see the mummy. You take the phone down for your ear. You say,
No!
"Oh, no. I'm going to
No?
talk you through the whole thing, Deborah. So you're going to take the phone down from your ear. You're going to look at the mummy. You're going to say, "Holy mother of crap."
Holy mother of crap.
Good. Now, your eye line for the mummy needs to be closer to camera. Right now, it's too far over. We're going to
Okay.
remember, just beside the camera. There you go.
Holy mother of crap.
Then you're going to take you're going to use your phone as the gun, so you can hold it. But you're going to put it down below the camera, so you're too far away from the camera right now. So you're going to take the phone away from your ear. You're going to as though you're drawing it from the gun from your waist. You're going to hold the phone and shoot the mummy, and you're not going to get it. Okay, and then you're going to get your hands up and say no.
No.
And just keep saying no and back up and
No.
back up.
No.
Good, and you're not going to do the choking, right? Because we're going to keep it.
Oh.
You're not going to do the choking. I had Kaden do
Okay.
that for fun because that's the first thing you do is you try it. So now we say the mummy's going to stab you in the belly, or right, like or crush the wind out of you, and like it's going to damage you in some way that is outside of the frame. Remember, the second thing is just keep it all outside the frame. See if that works. Good. So can you remember most of that?
Kind of.
Okay, your lines are holy mother of crap. No, it's going to be really important to take your time between things.
Okay.
New actors make the mistake of just going through the lines, and it's not the lines, it's the life of the scene. Stand by and action.
Holy mother of crap.
And then your line is no. And then say no.
No.
And then it's got to kill you and you have to die. I know. No, remember, it's not going to choke you. It's all going to be outside of the frame. Now, this what Deborah's demonstrating for us is something that's very, very normal, which is that it gets very hard to listen when you are also highly adrenalized. So Deborah's doing something that's new to her. She's like unused to all the people in class watching. So she's got lots of adrenaline in her body. But the way it comes across is that she's not listening. What's actually happening is that she's so full of adrenaline that even though I've explained it very, very carefully, and all the people who are sitting and listening and they're like, why isn't she doing it? Well, like, because she's doing her best. She's literally not hearing the things that are being said to her. So we're going to give you one more shot, and then we'll try somebody else just so that they can, and it's all good practice. Like, this is why you take acting classes, so that you can get you can get used to that level of adrenaline. And the more used to it you are, the easier it is to hear very complex direction, take it, and immediately do the thing, which you will need to do to be on set. So like, use class to work that out. Stand by, you're on the phone, and action.
Holy mother of crap.
And your line is no. There's a no.
No.
Cut. I know it's so nerve-wracking, isn't it? It's like it's so.
It is so.
Thank you so much for doing the uncomfortable thing and letting us watch. It's hard to remember when you're watching like how brave it is to do something like that. Let's see, Samantha, how would you feel about demoing for me? Yeah, you've left your video on.
Yeah, sure.
Great. So do you have a phone that's right there?
I'll use my house phone.
Perfect. That's perfect. So you're going to need to exactly tilt it up, so that we're seeing you. Exactly. Come a little bit closer, so you're in a medium close-up, just head and shoulders. Yeah, there you go. Now I want you to remember the gun needs to be down where the camera can't see it. Exactly. And this time, what you're going to do is you're going to keep saying no, and you're going to back all the way to that wall that's behind you. And when you hit the wall, you're going to go ah, and that's it. That's going to be the whole audition. Okay. Good. So you're starting on the phone. You don't expect the sarcophagus to open. You're looking to just the opposite side of the camera from where the mummy is. Right. So one side of the camera and then the other. So right now you've placed both of your islands on the same side of the camera. And what you want is one side. Exactly. Now that's too close to the middle, so it looks like you're looking right into the lens. So you have one side and then just the other side. A little bit more that way. There you go. Yeah. Stand by and action. Look over. You see the thing.
No.
Remember, the line is "Holy Mother of Crap."
Oh, I have to say that.
And then you take you don't want to say that? You totally don't have to.
Oh no, I can say it. Yeah, sure.
Good. And then you take the phone down, as though you're trying to shoot it, and then no to the back wall.
Okay.
Yeah. And then a good like horror movie scream, and that's it.
Okay.
Stand by. And out.
Holy mother of Christ.
Get your-
No! 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 Ah!
See? And it works. And it feels super uncomfortable for Samantha.
Yeah.
But if she just commits to it enough, then like the horror movie screen does the trick.
Yeah.
And-
My name's actually Nikki. I don't know why the name went to Samantha, but
Oh. Okay, Nikki. You can see that when Nikki just totally commits to it, it works. We've got 2 minutes left. Let me show you Charmed. You know what? Realistically, we should probably just save Charmed, for next time, because then you get to be tackled by invisible witches, next Monday. And I'll find some like fun kid thing to add to that one as well. So we demoed the like doing it exactly the way it's written. I'm being strangled, okay? I mean maybe, but it's like it's a little weird, right? Then we did okay. So something horrible is happening to me, but it's happening below where the camera can see. I can be specific about it or not, as long as I'm clear that like horrible things are happening. No, and then I die. Or at least I'm in the process of that when they cut camera. What could we do that is, how could we change it? Right, so that's option 3, right? Caden, what do you have in mind? I think you just like talking, Caden. I'm not sure you have a good clear idea here, but I'm super interested. Caden?
Where you're floating like a witch has those sticks.
Thank you so much. But no, what we want is something that tells the same story. Right, and I love that you always want to jump in. And I really appreciate. What I need is something that tells the same story. Which is I'm scared of the thing. I try and fight it off. It kills me. So has anybody got an idea from one of the previous lessons? What could you do instead, right? Because the mummy doesn't have to choke you. Your eyes could open really. Sure. Remember, Christina, that making faces will almost always seem fake. So I'm not suggesting what face should you make. I'm saying how could you change the action so that it would still tell the story. And so do you remember this thing that I showed you a number of weeks ago where you're giving yourself resistance? Like this is great if you're dragging somebody or somebody else is dragging you, and so you actually give yourself resistance. Fall back, step back, totally. Yeah, like if you got the back wall, you could even do like the very slow step back, which would be very different from what we saw Nikki do. Where we did no, right? Like that'd probably be enough. You also could do like the mummy grabs you, right? So then I would stay medium close up and we might see more of my eyes. And then I would just grab myself, right? So it starts with, I'm on the phone, I'm on the phone, holy mother of crap. And then I grab my own arm, no, and then like whatever happens next, either I scream or it's burning me. Could you hold yourself as if you've been wounded? Yeah, great. That's exactly the kind of thing I'm looking for, George. So then you can use yourself as I'm here. I see the mummy. Oh, no, right? So the wounding happens first. Yeah, if that felt better to you as you were exploring it, would totally work. So those top, the 3 ways to approach it, try it exactly the way it's written, then keep it happening outside of the frame so that we can believe it. And if those don't work for you, then you alter it slightly. Like for instance, losing the gun. So in the example we've used, we took away him trying to fire the gun, which is written in the script, but like probably not strictly speaking necessary. On set, of course, you'll have the handgun and they'll talk to you about firing blanks, or they'll have somebody else do that for you. Okay, it is just a smidge past 4 o'clock. Anybody who needs to unmute themselves, anybody who needs to go, we will unmute ourselves and wave goodbye to you, and then I will stick around for the next 15 minutes to answer questions. Bye, people who need to leave. It's not me. I'll still be here.
Bye.
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 Bye. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Bye.
Oh,
Bye.
bye. I'm a little bit behind in posting the videos to Facebook. I've been uploading them to YouTube, but I didn't get them posted to Facebook this weekend. I'll post some of those videos for folks who weren't here the last couple of days. Questions? It doesn't have to be about this lesson. It really, like, anything that is on your acting minds.
I had trouble this week. I had a couple auditions to do, self-tapes, and I couldn't, they didn't send on WeTransfer. Why would that happen?
I don't. I couldn't possibly know the answer to that
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
The WeTransfer. I mean, it's possible that you just. Probably it's just that you didn't do it right. Honestly,
Yeah.
WeTransfer is incredibly straightforward. So if it didn't send, you probably just like forgot to hit send or something like extraordinary.
Some silly thing?
I'm afraid so. Right. So
Okay.
here's the WeTransfer. In order, the interface is super straightforward. I select a file. I send it to myself. Bean.ca. Test file. I hit transfer. And then if you start to see this, Deborah, then it's sending. Right? It goes 1, 2, 3, 4, and it gets to 100. If it gets to 100, you'll see the little like cheersing thing, and that means they're sent.
For some reason, mine just kept turning. It took like hours and hours, and then it didn't get there.
Your internet connection was very, very poor.
From where I was, okay.
Correct, and so you needed to have a faster internet connection.
Okay, I'll get that fixed today. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was thinking about this question over the weekend, right? So what are agents expecting? Like some people, they wear fake eyelashes and then acrylic nails, right? So what do agents like? Do they like to come in more natural, or like using all like being all like what's it called? Blinged up.
It's a great question. I would say that in general, agents want you, like top level, they want you to be as natural as possible, because that's what they're expecting for most characters, right? Think about the characters on TV that are all blinged up. They're very specific characters. It's not like lots of characters that are like that. It's only very few characters that are like that. Does that make sense? I think one of the really important things, both for talent agents and then for casting directors, if you're going to auditions, is that you're as close to looking exactly like your photo as possible, right? So, for instance, a mistake that newer actors can make very easily, with the right kind of angles, and equipment, it's possible to take a very glamorous photo of basically anybody, even me. But if I'm not willing to or able to walk into an audition room looking at that level of glamorous, then the risk is they're looking at 600, 200, 300, up to 600 to 800 photos this size. They're choosing glamorous Michael Biehn, and then they get this Michael Biehn walk in the door, and they're like, oh, well, this is not what we expected. This is not what we wanted. I mean, this guy's great, but for some other part completely. So that's the great. I see your question, Dia. As soon as I'm finished answering Christina's, it's a great question. So does that answer your question, Christina? Yeah. And some people, like, it's really a part of their identity to be like very fashionable in some way. And if that's your jam and that's what you do every day, great, do it. But I think it was Sarah the other day or something who was like, should I curl my hair? It's a lot of effort. And I was like, only if you really want to do that every day, or like 5 times a week when you get auditions. Do you really want to do that? Okay, I support you. But I talked about the work of this woman, Brene Brown, a number of weeks ago. Now, without getting into too much detail, she's a researcher who studies shame and vulnerability. And she said something about belonging that I think is super relevant for auditions. And I was saying this to my students this weekend. She does qualitative research, which means she does thousands or tens of thousands of interviews of people talking about vulnerability and what helps them be vulnerable, etc. And then like from those interviews goes, okay, what are the things in common? You know, like what's showing up there? And she said that the thing that emerged in her research as the biggest barrier to people feeling like they belonged was fitting in. So the idea is, that somebody tries, like I see the Candy and her friends, and I'm like, they seem awesome. I want to be like them, and so I'm gonna wear like a gray T-shirt too, and like I'm gonna like dress like them, and like like the things they like, and I'm gonna go and hang out with them, and then Candy and her friends are like, actually no, like and they reject me, then I'm gonna feel disappointed, but I'm also going to feel ashamed. I'm going to feel like I did all this work to try and be like them, and I guess I didn't do it good enough, or I'm not good enough, which is like, that's the one of those shame voices, right? Is I'm not good enough. Not like I didn't do good enough, but I am as a person not good enough. Whereas if I just show up as me and I'm like, hey, Candy, you and your gray T-shirt friends like seem awesome. Like I basically only ever wear these white colored shirts. Do you like me anyway? And then they're like, no, ew, and they reject me. Then like, of course I still feel disappointed. But I'm unlikely to feel ashamed. Does that make sense? That I'm like, well, they rejected me and that feels bad, but I don't feel ashamed of myself. So where this is relevant for me to film and TV acting is like, this is a field where somewhere between 90 and 99% of the time, you are going to be rejected. You are going to audition and not get a job. And if we extend it to how many times your agent's going to ask for auditions and you're not going to get auditions, then we're up in the like 99.999% of the time. Remember, 600 submissions, they're choosing 10 people to see, or like maybe 30 if they're seeing tapes. So given that most of the time, you are not going to be chosen, do you really want to deal with being ashamed each time? Right? And so that for me is like just a little bit of science backing up this kind of basic idea that we hear from casting directors, from talent agents, from actors, from teachers, of like, just show up as you. Like, use yourself and to tell the story as well as possible. Because I think it is a trap to think, oh, if only I like pretzeled myself to fit into what I think they want, then I'd be worthy. Then I'd be able to, then I'd get all the jobs. Still, even if you really gamed the system, still like at least 9 times out of 10, and probably more than that, you would not be chosen. And so given that that's the case, how do you tell the story, but how do you do it as you? So like, if false eyelashes are not your thing, I think that it would probably mess with you to put them on like 100 times and be rejected every single time. Does that make sense? Yeah, so this is so my jam. It's very long answers to very short questions. Dia asked in the chat window what my voice warm-up is like. And the voice work, I think, is really important. And certainly if you ended up doing theater training, or wanting to do theater, or doing any kind of full-time training program, either, like Christina, like let's say you finished high school and you're like, yeah, I'm gonna do full-time theater, they'd have you doing voice classes, once a week, twice a week, 3 times a week, because your voice is your instrument, and you want to make sure that it can do all the things you want it to do, right? If you were a singer, you would train your voice. Actors do the same thing. And so for me personally, Dia, I do something called Fitzmaurice voice work. Fitzmaurice voice work. Oh, okay. Hang on, got to everyone. There we go. And Fitzmaurice voice work is essentially like you put your body into positions that give you muscle tremor, as a way of using that involuntary muscle tremor, to shake out the stored tension, particularly in your rib cage and your diaphragm. And I think it's the most appropriate for film because it's less about what your voice should sound like. And the goal with Fitzmaurice voice work is everything you're thinking and feeling included in your voice? And because that's not the case for us most of the time. Right? Most of the time we are modulating our voice. Some part or large part of our experience is not showing up in our voice, right? I'm doing it right now. I'm like, what I'm doing with my voice, I'm very used to it because I've been teaching for a long time, but I'm still going like, I'm competent and confident and professional and clear, and I'm not going, I don't know, like, oh, that's in there too. I'm just like usually not including it in my voice because it doesn't help me with this thing that I'm doing. But I want access to it. Like I want to have access to it. I want to know it's there, and I want to be able to selectively include all the parts of what I'm thinking and feeling when it's appropriate for the character. And because that supports me in doing work that is deeper and richer without having to, like I keep saying to Christina, without having to decide, here's what I should do with my face or here's how it should sound. Instead, I'm like, what else is going on for the story? What else am I feeling? What else is in that relationship? Can I include all of it? And just trust that my voice will do what it's meant to do. And freeing yourself of tension, particularly around your chest, rib cage. There's a really simple exercise that I learned in theater school of just like putting your hands on your back ribs and like, can you feel them expand when you breathe? Because chances are they never do. But if you watch dogs or cats or very small children breathe, what happens is their whole rib cage goes. That's what rib cages normally do. And why don't ours? Because socially, we spend a lot of time suppressing what we're feeling. And which is just crazy, but like our bodies are conditioned, to hold in that energy. And so actors are like, I want to feel more. Voice work is very much connected to feeling more. Now, if you really wanted to go all out, there's something called the Voice Intensive that happens at UBC. I mean, I'm sure it's not happening right now this summer, but likely it'll be back by next summer. And that's another like fantastic local resource. People come from all over the place to take the voice, and it's very, very intense. It's like 5 weeks of 10 hours a day, of voice work. But it's been a game changer for the folks I know who've taken it. And that's if you sort of want to go all out. I don't know if I'm answering your question in enough detail, Dia. Dia, basically what it looks like is 10 minutes. After I finish doing yoga in the morning, I'll do a couple of these tremor exercises. And then sometimes if I'm feeling inspired, I'll also sing. I took some singing lessons last year, and I just went in and talked to my singing teacher and was like, I want 10 minutes, that I can do every day. So my goal was like, I want a 10-minute voice practice that covers all the bases. And so like singing is wonderful voice practice too, right? It's very different from the freeing up voice work, but it's still every bit as useful, right? So sing, talk, do accents, the thing that you want to do 5 minutes a day, that you actually do 5 minutes a day, is actually way, way better, than the perfect thing that takes an hour, that you have to like effortfully craft over time or force yourself to do. Bodies respond, in my experience, way, way, way better to small amounts of practice consistently than they do to, like large or facilitated chunks of practice, but spaced way, way out. So this is where daily routines are super useful for building the kind of instrument that you want. And somebody who is consistently engaged, basically who just figures out like the thing that they actually want to do enough that they will do it. Over time, I've seen those people get so much more skilled, right? Because they're just practicing, and not in a like, oh, practice, grr, sort of way, but in a like, oh yeah, I love doing this thing. Yeah, like, I always sing when I'm waiting for the bus in the morning. Like that's my 10 minutes that I know I'm gonna sing. I always do all my weird voice exercises and sing when I'm in the car on the way to work. Like, I just love that. I always, like blast songs, and like sing along with them while I'm cooking. Like whatever it is, like using your voice in different ways is going to improve it, right? Or it's going to give you, like improve it in the sense of give you more range. Okay, 417. So if you have more questions, I can answer tomorrow.
Sorry, what's the ages for the UBC thing?
I'm pretty sure it's adults, like I know it's adults. I don't know how young they will take somebody, but if it's the kind of thing that really interests you, you absolutely could look into it. Right? Like a lot of the time, even if they're like, we never take teenagers, if you are persuasive enough, you can still get into that. Like some of the part-time professional classes that I took, and periodically continue to take as a professional actor, sometimes like a really focused, diligent, highly skilled 16-year-old will show up in there, and I'm like, oh, I didn't know you could do that. Oh man, like I just really wasn't advocating for myself enough when I was like 16. They were like, no, it's not allowed. And I was like, okay, I'll follow the rules because I like rules. Yeah, and it just never occurred to me to be like, like under what conditions do you make exceptions to that? Anyway, see, you tricked me. You got me talking to you more. But I'll be here tomorrow and happy to answer more questions then. Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you
Bye.
so much. Bye.
Thank you, Michael B.
My
You're
pleasure.
awesome.
Yay.
Have a good night.
Thank you.